503.
And David 808.
This is Two Pastors
Popcorn
and a Movie. Welcome to this edition of Two Pastors, Popcorn and a Movie. I'm David 503.
And I'm David 808.
Hey, we've got a great episode today. We're talking with Kevin Sorbo about a new movie called Standing Against the World. And I think this is timely that we're having this conversation today. And we're going to be featuring the movie the next week or two on our website, faithandfamilyflix.com. And we really feel like this is an important conversation to have about apologetics, Christian apologetics. I think it's something that's lacking and needs a lot more of attention. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Kevin.
Thank you. So good to be here. It was an honor to be part of that documentary. I think my first documentary I did with Tim Mahoney back in 2015 or 16. It's called Exodus: Patterns of Evidence, and I narrated that one, and that just really opened the door for me to want to do more. And we got we got this one out now. In fact, the people that bring out this one we're talking about right now, Against the World. Brent Miller's company, Ingenuity Films. I was lucky to be with one of them about 3 or 4 years ago already. We did one called Before the Wrath, dealing with the second coming. And that was the #1 documentary on Amazon for 5 straight months. And it's really quite fascinating. But this thing was a heck of a journey with John Lennox. The guy's amazing.
Yeah. Hey, before we jump into the serious questions, we got a softball one for you. We always like to ask our audience or our guest, when you go to the movies, what's your favorite popcorn to enhance the movie-going experience?
Just regular popcorn. I'll certainly put some salt on it, but the secret is add a big box of Junior Mints. They're awesome.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that one coming.
It's a great combo. I'm telling you right now. See, even David likes that idea. It's a great combo.
Yeah.
All right.
It works.
That's good.
It works.
That's good. We'll have to try that one. We
There
had a
you
few
go.
unique ones over the last few months, and I have to say that's probably the most unique. All right, so Standing Against the World, kind of set up our audience. What's the movie about, for those that don't know, and just to give us a platform to launch from?
Well, a one-sentence explanation is proving God in the world of science is really what it comes down to. And John Lennox is one of the world's greatest apologists. The guy's amazing. He's a retired Oxford math professor. He's brilliant. He holds, I think, 5 or 6 doctorates, speaks another 5 or 6 languages. And we got connected through my movie God's Not Dead, because the atheist college professor, which I always joke that's redundant. All I have to say is college professor nowadays. But I challenge his students to prove God exists and that God is not dead. And he brings up John Lennox's name in there, and his name is brought into it. And so John got a hold of me and said, "Look, I'm doing this documentary with Stephen Huff. Stephen Huff is a self-made billionaire guy out of Arkansas. We met at his beautiful estate out there and put this thing together. We shot 3 weeks in Oxford, England, 2 weeks in Israel, and became very good friends with John. I've known him now for a while. Please send out his prayers to his wife, Sally. She's quite ill. He's supposed to receive an award in Washington, D.C. in a couple weeks. I'm going to be up there along with a number of other people getting other presented, but I was going to be one of the people, being on stage with him, but he can't make it now. So, but John really I do call it apologetics for dummies like me. That's really what it is, because it will teach you how to defend your faith in today's really crazy, crazy world. And I play myself, but I play more of an agnostic role. And only that, I'm just saying, hey, explain this to me. How do you think this could possibly happen? Or how this could happen and that could happen. And he just there was really no script. There was like, we get to locations and say, okay, this is where he healed a blind man. So we knew that part, but we would just go with it. And that guy was just brilliant. He is the true star of this whole thing. And he's so wonderful. If you look at his, we have clips in there where he debates guys like Dawkins and Hitchens and Singer, all these world's greatest atheists. And he just defeats them with love and kindness and humor and intelligence. And they're just getting angry. And you can see them just getting angry during the interviews. And he's got this wonderful pattern of, his voice sounds like a little bit like Winnie the Pooh. And it's just great to listen to this guy talk. And it's a wonderful documentary. And I pray to God that every church across not only America, the world picks this thing up, and especially over in Europe. I've been in Europe a number of times through the years, and talk about a secular continent now. I mean, these beautiful churches from the 16th, 17th century are just museums now. And it's really quite sad how, and we're following the same pattern here. But I feel a pit tipping point in America. I really
Yeah,
do.
yeah. So Kevin, what was the initial point that really drew you to want to be involved in this? Was there a, I mean, obviously John Lennox working with him.
Sure.
Um, what was that tipping point that said, man, I got to be involved in this?
Well, I think this is a way to sort of wake people up. You see the anger in our country right now, not let alone the world, and
Right.
people are lost. I mean, I'm from Minnesota originally. You see the horrific things going on in that state right now, ever since the summer of love in 2020, where we praised a guy like George Floyd, who was a lifelong criminal, and built statues to the guy. It's just we live in a culture right now where people do not like who they are. I think these people, if I did a documentary on the life of Antifa members or BLM members, I think there's a common denominator. I would think the most of them, I bet you, I know I'm right, that most of them grew up in a broken family. They probably don't have a father. If they have a job, they don't like it. If they have a relationship, they don't like it. They look in the mirror, they don't like it. And they want to take it out in the world. And a lot has been perpetuated by our government, perpetuated by Hollywood, my world,
Yeah.
through movies and television. We've created abortion as a means of just getting out of a situation using it as a birth control method when it's the killing of human life, and we've normalized murder. I mean, it's bizarre to me that we are having these discussions. We're having discussions. Men and women's sports. Are you kidding me? Who are these 40%, whatever, is that they think it's okay? I mean, it's the
Right.
weirdest thing in the world to me right now. None of it makes any sense. And I think this is very timely. And even before all this stuff was coming to fruition, I wanted to be part of this to wake people up. And because I saw the direction the country's going, I see the direction of anger and hate and violence in this world, and just no morals. The Constitution. And I think Adams even said it's not. It's the Constitution isn't for a morally bankrupt society. It's for a society that follows God. I mean, our founding fathers were men of faith, and the people that run in the government now, the majority of them, are not people of faith.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
It's interesting to see you out there taking this tour. And I was telling Dave, I feel like I've been on the tour with you. I went to Oxford. I went to the pub there, the Eagle and Baby.
That's
When I
where we
was
started. The
when I was
meeting with
working on
John.
my master's, I went there,
Yeah.
and to go along with your journey, it really brought back those memories that I had. What kind of things do you hope that the average young adult will pick up on this movie? Because I was explaining, you need to watch this several times to get all the facts and details.
Oh, there's no question. No question. I just spoke at the March for Life event last week up in DC, and I spoke in front of 1,500 high school and college students, and they gave me hope. When I keep speaking in front of people that young, that are just like wonderful young adults that have a purpose, have a plan, have a focus, whether it's about marriage, whether it's about having children, what's about follow with God. I mean, that I look at universities and I look at people that from that age group that went through these high school and college years. I'm going, you guys are awesome because you are the future. I remember being in grade school. I was like fifth or sixth grade, and some politician in Minnesota came to speak to us. Maybe it was Hubert Humphrey. I can't remember because we had somebody come through and they said, you are the future. And I remember as an 11-year-old, you're kind of going, well, you don't really think about it. But you go, yeah, because I'm a lot older than 11 years old now. And we're in a situation where we got to do something to pass down something good for our children and their grandchildren and the great grandchildren down the road, because the country and the world is leading down such an atheistic, agnostic path with no moral structure whatsoever that there is, like I said, there's a tide that's turning right now. I see people saying enough is enough. I read recently, I don't know how true it is, I hope it's true, that the biggest, fastest growing Christian cultures in the world right now are China and Russia, because you're going to be pressed down so far. It's like an alcoholic. They say you can't help them until they have to help themselves. They'll hit rock bottom. And when you live in a culture like communism and anti-God, anti-everything, anti-individual, you get to a point that the only place left to look is up. And I think that's what these people are doing. They're going, there is a God. There has to be a God. And I'm going to go find out. I met a guy that lives here. I live in Florida now. And I golfed with this gentleman, young kid, 22, 23 years old, from China. They had to escape. And he said they knew my movies. They knew God's Not Dead and What If and Soul Surfer. And he said, oh, it's all underground. He said we would get arrested and imprisoned if they caught our church. And I went, wow.
Hmm.
I mean, and this is where we're at. And yet we celebrate other things that are so negative and hateful. But let's go after people that believe in love and hope and laughter. It's weird.
Yeah.
We want to say special thank you to our sponsors and supporters. Flip your day in 2 scoops of Flip 7, the ultimate all-in-one superfood reset. Click the link in the show notes and use the code OMGREN10 to receive 10% off on your online purchases. Find out more by going to flipmylifenow.com. Also, thank you to snowcreekmeadows.com for handmade goat milk soaps and lotions. BeKing.com is your site for honey dust and other sugar substitutes. It's perfect for putting on popcorn. And speaking of popcorn, IslandPopper.com will provide you with gourmet popcorn. Great for watching your favorite movie. Get 10% off on all these online purchases by using the passcode 2PASTORS. That's the number 2 and the word pastors. Also, a special thank you to KidsMatter.com. Sign up now for their next conference. It's the perfect place to get ideas and energy for you or your youth and children's ministry team.
Speaking of, the future, I've been reading some stuff lately in the last week, just trends of young people who've grown up in church. And they know the what, but they don't know the why. And I think that's part of this whole deconstruction with kids that grow up in church. They just don't know, they haven't made it personal, or they don't know the why, how to defend their faith. How do you think this film can help assist young people that are in that situation, or parents that have kids in that situation, where they can watch this as a family and unpack, the various elements and themes in this movie?
Well, it's a guide. It's got amazing bullet points right in there. Just listen to what he has to say, what John has to say. David hit it right. I mean, it's like it's a guiding path for you to sit there and understand and how you can defend your faith. I mean, I looked at what John was talking about, and I learned a lot from this. I learned a lot by this, and I just rewatched Before the Wrath. There was another one from Brent Miller's company recently with my kids, because I said I want you guys to take notice of this and just take a look at it, listen to the scholars that speak, but. Brent films these in such great ways. He films it just as high quality as The Chosen, but in between segments, they bring in current scholars, current people that, whether it's a pastor, a priest, or just somebody who has more knowledge than I do about the Bible. And that's probably a lot of people. But I remember I was driving through a small town. I was doing a pro-life event, and I remember I had to drive to, I landed at a major airport, but I had to drive to a smaller suburb. And I love how churches put out there, they got little signs and little things for the church. And one said, read the Bible, it'll scare the hell out of you. And I thought that is awesome. That's just such a great little quote right there. And I've used that a lot. And people should read the Bible. It's there's a great stories in there. Even as atheists that get interviewed in this movie that have these debates with John, they don't deny that Jesus didn't exist. They know that there was a man named Jesus that was a prophet of sorts that was walking the earth. They just can't find his body for some reason at any cemetery, and I know the reason for that. But anyway, it's,
Yeah.
explain that one to me. When
Yeah.
I look at these people that from Minnesota that charge into that church, I challenge them to go into a mosque and do that. They don't do that. They know what they're doing. They go into a church because they know they're going to be met with people that are going to let them do what they're doing. And I think it's time for Christians, even Jesus tossed over a few tables. I think we got to start, and I don't say violence fight back, but we got to fight back verbally and just get in people's faces and say enough is enough. Just because you yell loud doesn't make you right. And just shut them up and say, let's have a civil conversation. If you can't, all they do is a chant. They chant the things over and over and again. And everything is dealt with, and everything they deal with is hate and anger and violence. That's not the party, the Democrat Party that my parents grew up believing in.
Yeah.
It's changed so much. I tell my friends all the time, look at JFK's inauguration speech and tell me one Democrat talks that way today. JFK would be a Republican. And people can
Yeah.
scoff at that.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to it. It's online.
Yeah.
Listen to what he says. Ask not what the government can do for you, but what you can do. And that's not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. There's no Republicans talking the way other than Trump and a handful of Republicans. So people need to wake up and fight back. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Are you noticing a difference when you go out and you talk to people about this movie? Are you noticing a difference? I mean, you said you saw that. Share some of the insight that you're having with the young people with the connection of this. Because, after Charlie Kirk,
Yeah.
I noticed it myself, but you explain it.
Well, I saw, I met Charlie back when he was 21 years old. He and I spoke at an event in Steamboat Springs. That was my first encounter with him. So I knew him for the last 10 years of his life. And I remember he spoke before me, and I looked at my wife and I said, "I got to follow that. This kid's this kid's a lot. I got 20 years on this kid, and he's killing me here." So it was really sad, and all he did was speak the truth. He was huge in influencing the youth. He was huge in bringing them to God, bringing them to the conservative party, because he would just. It wasn't anger. He would sit there and debate the students, but he didn't. There's no ums and ahs in his dialogue. He went boom, 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 boom. This is the way it is, guys. You can believe what you want to believe, but this is what I believe. Tell me how I'm wrong. And he taught people so much with that right now. And I just think that with his loss, it just shows you where we are in the world right now. But out of that horrific thing, I think there's a lot of good that's happened too, because it woke up a lot more people to say, wait a minute now. This is the point of ridiculousness that we're going after people that we're going after. And I think there's a change. Look, I get stopped. You know, I here's a sin of pride. I was on the most watched TV show in the world. I played Hercules for 7 years on TV. Then I did a show called Andromeda. Hercules in 176 countries, Andromeda 150 countries. I don't get stopped for that anymore. I get stopped because of God's Not Dead, What If, Soul Surfer, Let There Be Light, Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist. These are what people stop me for of all ages. When I get invited to Comic Cons, most of them, they don't invite me anymore because of where I stand politically, which cracks me up. These guys that run these Comic Cons are running a capitalist business, but they don't want me there because they don't like that I'm a Christian and a conservative. So if I make it to some of these cons, I get people come, families, the 3 kids, 5 kids, five, whatever. They come to my table and say, "We're here only because of you. We want autographs with you and photos with you." And I'm realizing that the road God put me on in 2010, which is I did a movie called What If. In my book, much better movie than God's Not Dead. Same writers, Chuck and Carrie. What
Hmm.
If was directed by Dallas Jenkins. That was his first really big foyer. That movie deserved to be so much bigger than it is. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. And it that opened my eyes. And I said, "All right, God, this is the road you want me on. I get it now. This is the path you want me to do to make a difference." Hollywood booted me out 10, 12 years ago. Cancel culture before it was a term. They said, "We can't work with you anymore. Nobody wants to work with you in studios because of your beliefs." I'm going, wow.
Hmm.
So because I believe in truth, that's kryptonite to you guys. I realize that now. So to me, I was fine. So my wife and I formed Sorbo Studios. Please go to sorbostudios.com. And it's my wife's and I together. And then I have my part and she has her part. And we've been doing it now for about, gosh, probably 10 years now. And this is the road I'm on. And I'm just going to do movies that Hollywood used to do. They don't
Yeah.
do those movies anymore, but I'm doing movies that Hollywood used to do.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the change from Hollywood. And
Yeah.
some of the bean counters are catching up and realizing that there's an audience for this. And this movie for me is the next step. When you have somebody that comes to know Christ, you're like, and they start asking questions,
Yeah.
this is that next textbook for you to watch as a film.
I wish I had this clip. Joe Rogan had a guest on last week, and he talked about going to church now. He's on his own sort of exploration right now, and he said I wish there was a pill that everybody could take that would turn them into the people that I meet at my church because they're just so filled with love and kindness. And I
Hmm.
thought, this is awesome for this guy who's got 20, 30 million people who listen to him every day. And I
Yeah.
said, this is a great message to get out there. Because the guy that said, um, well, they talked about the people that are attacking in the Christianity world. And that guy that was his guest just said, well, they're filled with anger. And he said, yeah, it's as simple as that. These people sit there and he goes, it's interesting to me. He goes, I'm studying more about Jesus. I'm studying more about, the things he had to do and he was just filled with kindness. And that's something the world is missing because, as I said earlier, people do not like their lives. They don't like who they are. And they found a common denominator with people that feel the way they do. So
Right.
they form their own group. This is how gangs form, however you want to term
Right.
it. And these are literally thugs and gangs out there destroying people's property. There was a video I saw yesterday, a construction worker in Minnesota walking out to his car, and every single car in the street, like 30 cars in a row, he filmed, had the windows bashed in. What does that have to do with ICE? It has nothing to do with ICE. just has to do with these angry people that they bring in that are being paid to come in because they already found a bunch of agitators that are just paid to go out there because it's so well organized. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they're just looking for an object of to direct their anger, and
Yeah.
the car windows and end up being the one of the victims. Hey, so Kevin, as you were doing this film, as you watched it afterwards, you mentioned about it impacting you. Do you have are there a couple instances of specifics where some things you learned really helped strengthen your faith?
You know, they brought me to a couple places that most tourists don't get to go to. And I got to go into Lazarus's tomb.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's in a Muslim area. And and I got to tell you, the difference between when you leave a Jewish neighborhood to a Muslim neighborhood to a Muslim, it is completely night and day. And it is. And it's not in a positive way when you move in these Muslim neighborhoods. It's like, it's like they have no skin in the game and they don't care of the appearance of their homes, of their streets, of their buildings. And that's just the truth. You can go see it for yourself. I've been over there 6 times now. And I think the first time I went into that tomb, John couldn't go. The steps are very too steep. He just couldn't go in there. So they filmed me going down into it. And there was a number of places. It wasn't just one tomb where they buried people. They had probably about 12 different plots in there, so to speak, just dug into the ground. To feel that, to really put myself in that situation at that time that this man came back to life and walked out of that tomb. Um, I get goosebumps talking about it. There's another one where they brought me to a church that was built over the site where Pilate had his balcony. The balcony still exists. They kept the balcony where he stood on there, saying, "Which of these two men do you want me to free, and which do you want to, sacrifice?" And I got this. It's a church there now, so the church they can go to church, they can look at it, but no one can go up there. And there was a Muslim man that became a Christian that brought me up in this tiny little elevator to that balcony. And when they opened it, I stood out. I said, "You coming out?" He goes, "No, no, no, I cannot, I cannot, I cannot." And I was like, wow, okay. So I walked out there and they filmed me standing on there. And I closed my eyes and put myself in that position 2,000 years ago of looking at these two people. And remember, it was an open field back then, obviously,
Yeah.
and all these people chanting for the death of Jesus. And it really hits you when you walk in the footsteps of Jesus, when you go to that place, it's a different feeling than being a Christian at home and not traveling over there. I think every believer should go over there. I met so many people from so many countries. Um, that was my first time going there to Israel, and I wasn't expecting it, but it didn't surprise me once it started happening with such a regular sort of flow of where we went. Whether it was groups of tourists from America, Canada, Poland, China, even. I mean, I had people coming up to me, certainly because of recognition of Hercules, but they had seen God's Not Dead. They had seen Let There Be Light. They had seen these Soul Surfer movies, and they've been to these different countries. And they come up to me and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here," and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, "This is amazing. I mean, this is truly amazing." And that just reinforced what the road God put me on was the right road. Finally, there was a man from Michigan that walked right by me, right up to John Lennox. And said, I'm such a big fan. And John looked at me and he goes, "See, Kevin, I'm famous too." He said, it was very funny, but it was eye-opening. And I have another documentary coming out later now than sooner because we've got the History Channel very interested in it, and it's called "The Quest for the Throne of God." And I spent 3 weeks over in Israel through archaeological digs, and we traced the flow of the Ark of the Covenant. And I actually got to go into some areas that nobody gets to go into. And I got to see the rock where Abraham was going to sacrifice his only son. And most Christians don't get to go in there because it's all under Muslim control now.
Hmm.
And we had the papers to go in there. We had Muslim authorities with us. And I came walking out, and there's a group of Americans that saw me come walking out because they saw me go in. And as I came out, this one American got it in my face. So what are you doing? What are you, Muslim now? And you just got in my face because you know that they can't go in there. And
Hmm.
I just let him have this rant at me. And I thought it was so odd. And I said, "Why are you so angry?" I said, "I'm filming a documentary." And I said, "I probably got to go in there." I got tired of him. I mean, I let him go on for like 3, 4 minutes. And I said, I probably got to go in there because I'm more famous than you. And then I walked away. So I figured just shut him up somehow. But I thought it was interesting that this one guy just went off on me.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of some of my atheist friends say, I find some Christians to be the most unforgiving people in the world. And I said, you're not wrong. I said, I think most Christians are very good people. But there are some Christians out there that are so judgmental, and we're supposed to be the most forgiving. And a lot of times we're not.
I felt like I was going along with you. That was a highlight for me was going into Lazarus' tomb because
Yeah.
I honestly will never have that chance. Things can happen, but still, it's very expensive and all these other commitments and things like that. But this is that kind of movie that you can watch, and we get to go along to those places. So that's a good example of where, wow, we got to go and see the different sites. What is the reaction by people that have seen this? What are they saying to you afterwards, after they watch your documentary?
The ones that have got a hold of me through the Sorbo Studios site or in person, both of them, they love it. They love it. And they say, we're going to bring it to our church. And I say, please do. Bring it to your youth group. I mean, get it out there to people. And I always tell people, I go, look, we all have, I have atheist friends still. I have agnostic friends. I have some that don't want to be friends anymore ever since the COVID era. But I've always said, you know what? If you still have friends in that world, and hopefully you do, because it's good to have those different points of view and have discussions at least, because you never know what kind of impact it can be. But I know what it's like to invite people to come to your church if they're not going church goers. I don't know. There's church people there and stuff like that. I worry about it. And if the few that I've talked into going, they've all been pleasantly surprised. They go, everybody was so nice. And I go, well, yeah, everybody was so nice. But it's easy to ask somebody to go see a movie. So show them the movie. But say, hey, want to come over and watch this movie? It's pretty interesting. It's a documentary, but it's educational. And I think you'll find it fascinating. Because that's a no pressure situation. You can just go and you can form your own opinions. You can stop it at any time to have a discussion. That's why I'm saying, families, watch this together. Bring it to church groups, bring it to youth groups. One of my biggest influence for me is my Christian. At 13 years of age, my church in Minnesota, typical Scandinavian, it was a Lutheran church, St. John's Lutheran Church. We had a place called The Room. And our youth pastor, Pastor Lee, was 13 to 17-year-olds. It was seventh grade through 12th grade, every Wednesday, 2 hours every Wednesday, all year round. Summer didn't matter. Sports season didn't matter. Unless they got in the way. It was Wednesdays usually were a non-sporting day anyway. I remember for me, football games were Friday, and high school basketball for me was Tuesdays and Fridays, so it didn't get in the way. But not that that would get in the way, but I love my sports too. So it's so we would talk, the Bible, we would play ping pong, we play pool, we sat in our beat up old, couches and whatever they could afford to have in the room. But it was great. And it was always be a group anywhere from 15 to 30 people, whoever could make it that Wednesday. But Pastor Lee was so instrumental to my growth because my pastor, Sandus, he was a 65-year-old guy that scared the hell out of me. I mean, breathing was a sin with this guy. I was just the little kid growing up and listening to Pastor Sandus talk. I was just kind of scared of him all the time. Well, Pastor Lee was this guy that was an early, 24, 25 years old. And he was just this cool, hip guy that brought the church and the Bible into our world and how this is what the Bible means and how it applies to you today. Because the Bible can be as old as it is, but there's a heck of a lot of stories in there that are going, yeah, that's going on right now in the world. So there's a lot of places to look at, and you can look at in the New Testament that you look, how did Jesus deal with this? So I tell people all the time, I said it's important to get this to the youth, get them out there, watch them. Like I said, David, you watch it more than once. You got to watch it more than once. There's so much stuff there, so much information there, and I love it. I love the documentary world. I think it's getting bigger and better. When I travel a lot on airplanes, that's what I watch now more than anything. And it doesn't always have to be faith-based documentary. I just saw one recently on the Eagles because I'm a big fan of the Eagles group, and I thought this is pretty fascinating because you get behind the scenes to
Yeah.
get to know more of the group, good or bad. But it's interesting to me, and I think the documentaries have a bigger place out there, and so I hope people will tune in to watch this one.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for taking time to unpack this and talk about the movie. It's going to be on faithfamilyflix.com in the
I
next
love
week or
that.
two. And I want to encourage our audience, make sure you watch it. It'll be streaming free. Watch it. And then think about showing it to your wider church, because I think, as Kevin said and David said, this is something that I think will really be helpful to unpack not only the what, but the why,
Right.
and helps you to understand your faith and defend your faith, not only to others, but to know why you believe what you believe. And that, yes, Jesus, I hear a lot of people these days saying, well, Jesus, Bill Maher, Jesus wasn't even a real person, didn't even exist. And I'm
That's
like,
just silly. Yeah.
yeah, totally. That's totally out to lunch. But there are facts and there is history that prove Jesus was a real person, and just understanding those things from Kevin and John Lennox. And John Lennox is the C.S. Lewis, modern day C.S.
Yeah.
Lewis. I think you'll really enjoy his insight and his simple, straightforward explanation of Christian apologetics.
Hey,
So,
David, a couple of things. Number one, you're both named David. If you notice, my middle name is David. All four of the boys in my family have biblical middle names. So
I see that.
when I got old enough, I remember I was 12 years old and I really started reading the Bible and read through the whole Bible for the first time when I was 12. And I went up to my parents afterwards reading about David, and I said, God picked that guy? It's just like, so it just shows you that there's hope in anything and everything. And I do want to get out there real quick. My wife and I usually take a trip to Israel, and we call it Following Footsteps of Jesus. This year, we're going to go to Greece. And I would love people to join us. Go to sorbocruise.com. That's sorbocruise.com or sorbostudios.com for information. And we're doing, it's late September into October. We're going to be in Athens because there's some amazing history in Athens where the Apostle Paul was. This is following the footsteps of the Apostle Paul. But we're going to get on a cruise boat as well. We're going to Ephesus. We're going to Sicily. We're going to
Mm.
Crete. We're going to Mykonos. So please join us for this amazing, once in a lifetime adventure. You'll learn so much about the Apostle Paul, of what he did on his journey preaching the word of Jesus after Jesus was crucified.
In fall of this year, 2026.
Yep. I think September 23rd is the arrival date, and I think it's a 12-day journey. I think
All
people
right.
will love it.
And they can sign up for
Sorbocruise.com.
they can sign up for your newsletter that comes to me
That's right.
monthly.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Sorbo Studios has all that information as well.
Great. Again, thank you, Kevin, for taking a few minutes and talking about Standing Against the World and your cruise. And it was a pleasure and an honor to just sit down with you for a few minutes. So thank you guys for being with us on our latest episode of Two Pastors, Popcorn, and a Movie. Thanks for joining us for Two Pastors, Popcorn, and a Movie.
We enjoy talking about movies and shows that are coming to a theater and or streaming.
We'll be back next time with more incredible interviews and movie news.
And amazing information.
Popcorn. Want some more popcorn?
I would love some more popcorn.
Take some more popcorn.
Yeah, let's go get some more popcorn.
Okay, we'll see you later.